A question I got in my last video was, why should I accept my suffering? It feels like if I accept my suffering, it will never go away. So if I'm feeling anxious or fearful, why would I be okay with these emotions? Wouldn't that just mean they're going to stay there forever and I'm going to stay stuck? So it's a really, really good question. So I decided to make a video on it. First, we need to understand what suffering is in the first place, because this is where the mind misperceives what suffering is and causes a lot of confusion. So suffering is resistance to what is. You are suffering whenever you're resisting what is happening in your conscious experience. So if you're feeling anxious or afraid, your suffering is not due to the anxiety or the fear. It is actually due to the resistance to those emotions. You can feel fear, you can feel anxiety without suffering. And for some of the people watching, you will have experienced this. You do not need to suffer while feeling these quote unquote negative emotions. The only thing that makes them negative is our resistance to them. If we don't resist, and I'll explain what that looks like in a minute, the problem or the emotion takes the path of least resistance and naturally resolves itself. At first, we don't believe that this is possible. It seems like, no, there's no way this could be possible, because our brains are very much used to doing. So when somebody says, oh, you don't have to do anything, you just let it be, our brain is literally incapable of doing that. It doesn't understand how that works. And this is a key insight into figuring out how to actually sit with these emotions and to ease your suffering. This is not something that your mind can do. And this is a really important point to emphasize. You must go beyond your mind to be able to let go and to surrender. It needs to be coming from a place of stillness, and the mind by nature is always moving. It's the part of you that you identify with that is always trying to solve a problem. That life is a problem to be solved. This is coming from the mind. When you're truly processing an emotion and you're sitting with it and you're letting it be, that is beyond the mind. So it's coming from the inner stillness that we all share. So everybody has access to this peace and to this clarity. And so you tap into that when you want to process an emotion. You let it be. You don't justify to yourself and to your mind why it's a good thing to accept this, or why this is, how this is going to help me, or all of these different things that the mind is used to doing to just actually achieve outcomes. You have to be able to drop all the expectation and all the outcomes and let go. And then the emotion stops being suffering and you gain freedom over your own mind. So I want to clear a few things up here as well, because our mind is very, very sneaky at coming up with arguments and rationalizations to why surrender or acceptance wouldn't work. So some of the rationalizations in our minds are going to be something like, but I need to act, I need to do things. And surrender just means I'm just going to sit around and do nothing with my life, or the problem's just never going to go away. So if I am like in a burning building, if I just sit there and accept that, I'm not going to get out of the burning building. And it's important to clarify that acceptance is actually what leads to action. So think about yourself if you were in a burning building and you were constantly denying that the building was burning. This is what you do when you have an emotion and you're not looking at the emotion and you're creating a narrative and a story. It's as if you're trying to justify and create a story as to why the building isn't burning. once you finally accept the emotion or the burning building, you'll be able to move out of the building. This is what self-love fundamentally is. This is what it means to love your emotions and your thoughts. It's to not bind them into any specific narratives or outcomes that your mind is trying to seek. You love yourself, and so you step out of this cycle of suffering. You stop resisting what is happening in your mind, and you start accepting it. This is self-love. This is love. And again, this won't come from your mind. A question that's inevitably going to come up, and your mind will say this. It will say, okay, but then what do I do? And this is, again, this is the suffering. Like, this is the resistance. But it's really frustrating when somebody just says, like, do nothing. And then your mind, if you're identified with it, goes, okay, but how do I do nothing? How do I do nothing? It's extremely frustrating. Trust me, I understand. I've felt that way so many times. And so this part becomes very, very difficult to explain or to convey, because you can't do anything. But that is annoying, right? Like, it's frustrating. What do you mean I can't do anything? It's a feeling or a sensation, or even beyond that. It's something you tap into during those very difficult moments. So when you're in extreme anxiety, it's really by just grace and a willingness, an intention to surrender, that it actually ends up being processed, or you end up letting go of control. You can't let go of control yourself. It happens by grace, but you can set up the conditions and have the willingness to let go of that suffering, to let go of that resistance to the emotion. And a way to set up these conditions in a better and better way is having a regular meditation practice. Your mind becomes fertile ground for grace to work through you. Your spirit will be able to work through you better and better and better when your mind is calmer and your environment is calmer. These are things that we, quote unquote, have control over, in a sense, or it's just more intuitively obvious. You can remove, like, distractions, a cluttered mind. You can set a schedule to meditate more often. And this will allow you some more distance between your emotions and will allow you to stop resisting a bit easier. So practically speaking, all you can do is really orientate your life and your environment around cultivating this peaceful mind. And then in those moments of intense emotion, surrender will be able to happen a bit more easily. That's everything I wanted to share. Hopefully this was helpful. I know this topic can be a bit confusing and convoluted. It's very paradoxical, so our minds like to freak out when told to do nothing. But anyhow, hopefully it was helpful. If you need help finding meaningful work that's spiritually aligned, or you want to join a community of like-minded people, check out the links down below. And for now, peace and love.